Hey, AP World History, it's Miss Z here for some SAQ practice. Hey there, welcome in. When you pop in, say hi in the chat and we'll get started here in just a second. I also put in the chat and the links below the prompts for the SAQs that we're going to be talking about, just in case you can't remember them. So you can grab them down there. Say hello in the chat when you get in here. That'd be awesome. I also wanted to show you this new addition to the YouTube room real quick. It's for when we have light bulb moments. Isn't that amazing? I love it. Just love it. Actually, I might keep it on. Hey guys, I was just showing the new addition to the YouTube room. This is for when we have light bulb moments. Yes, I realize it's cheesy, but hey, little by little we get there, right? We got to have some fun in our day. All right, welcome in, guys. It's good to see you. Can you hear me all right? I'm not wearing headphones, so I want to make sure that I'm not echoing or anything like that. So welcome in, welcome in. So we're going to get started here, and what I want you to do is just take some notes, and this is going to count as your rewrite this time. Next time I might give you a different question to practice, but this time we're just going to look at all three of the prompts and kind of go over some examples of what was really good and what was not so good, what needed some more information, okay? If you're just tuning in, I wanted to share with you this new addition. It's a light bulb for when we have light bulb moments in here, because we have lots of those. And also your SAQ prompts are down in the description below. They're also above in the comments if you can't remember what they were. So we're going to get started. The things that you want to remember with SAQ and any SAQ that we write, okay? So not just this one, any SAQ, these are the things that you need to remember. What is the prompt asking? Always underline, highlight, do whatever you need to do to remember what the prompt is asking, because that's very important. Some of the prompts that I read were great. They had great information, but they weren't addressing the prompt. They weren't answering the question. So that's the first thing. And then you need to use content-specific vocab. I had a lot of questions about, well, what does that mean? Basically, any vocab that goes with that question. So I'll give you some examples here in a minute when we start going over these. And then you need to explain how and why something happens. The why is often something that we miss, but it's important because sometimes on the AP exam, the readers are specifically looking for that why, okay? You also have to remember that the AP readers cannot read anything into what you're writing, all right? You have to be very specific. You have to spell it out for them, basically, because they can't just say, oh, well, I think this is what they mean. No, it has to absolutely say that, okay? So in my examples that I was going through today of some other student writing, I started with the religion question. That seemed to be the most popular one. That's the one that my students answered the most. So that's the one we're going to start with. It's number 2 in the document if you have the document from down below. So the first question is identify and explain one difference between two religions identified in your summer assignment. So one person wrote one difference between Buddhism and Hinduism is that Buddhism comes from South Asia while Hinduism comes from the Indus River Valley. It's true, right? But she can't really expound on that much. There's not really much information that you can add to that. It's not very open-ended. So that would not be a very good SAQ because you can't explain that further. Plus, it's kind of obvious. It's kind of like saying, well, the sky is blue and in both places. You know, like it's kind of obvious. So you want to try to pick something that you are going to be able to expound on. Sophia, this is not homework. This is, so if you got below a 75 on your SAQ, this is your retake. And this time we are allowing you guys to get up to an 80. So that's really awesome. The next rewrites will just be a 75, but we're going to let you go up to an 80 this time since it is since it's your first SAQ. So what you're doing right now is just taking notes over what we're talking about, okay? 3 things that you should have down answer the prompt, use content-specific vocab, and explain how and why. And we're talking about the religion one. So that student that chose that the difference was one of them started here, the other one started here, it's just not enough information. Now, I want you to see the difference between that one and this one. This one was good. So it says, one difference between Hinduism and Buddhism is that one traditionally divides society with a caste system, while the other accepts that all humans are equal. Okay, so that has a topic sentence. That's the first thing that you want to have in your SAQ. You need to have a topic sentence that's telling and addressing the prompt. So this student addressed the prompt by saying one difference between Hinduism and Buddhism, that's two religions, right, is that one divides with a caste system versus the other one is equal. Okay, so this would be Hinduism, and then Buddhism teaches more about equality. All right. Now, this is information that this student can expound on. They can talk more about this. So listen to how they do the explaining part of how and why, and also the content vocab. It says the caste system benefits the upper caste, but puts down the lower caste. Hindus have to be of the Brahmin caste so that one can obtain enlightenment. The lower caste are known as the untouchables, and they got the worst of it. So this student explains what the caste system is. This is one of the specific vocab words that that student is using, and they're explaining it. They're not just saying that the Hindus believe in the caste system and support it. They're letting the reader know that they understand what the caste system is. And that a lot of times is something that you miss in your SAQ. You have to explain what you're talking about, what you're trying to prove. Then it says, on the other hand, the caste system was something that triggered Buddhism. Instead of Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I don't know why it muted me. That's really weird. Can you hear me? No? Yeah, no? What about now? Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry. I don't know why it muted me. Okay, so what I was saying is the transition words, on the other hand, that's really important because that shows that person is talking about difference. So make sure and keep that in mind when you're talking about difference. Make sure that you have that transition word in there so that it shows that you're comparing the two. All right. Do you see the difference between the first one I read and the second one I read? There's quite a big difference, right? There's a lot more information with that second one, and it's explaining that open-ended question. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have that open-ended question. What about for the second one in religions? It says, identify and explain one similarity between, where's it at? I lost it. Between two of the religions researched in your summer assignment. So now we're looking at a similarity. Similarities are sometimes easier to do, but sometimes they're harder. It just depends on what information that you have. So somebody wrote, one similarity between Buddhism and Hinduism is that both religions spread their faith throughout the regions. That's true. But what could that student have done to make that better? That's definitely not going to get the point. It doesn't have enough information. What else could you add to that? I'll read it again. One similarity between Hinduism and Buddhism is that both religions help spread the faith throughout regions. Is it very specific? What do you think? This is like waiting on answers on Teams. takes a little while. Anybody? Explaining it. Yeah, Virginia is saying, hey, we got to explain it. Koala? I like it. Koala is saying, explain why. Mention how and why it spread. Yes, we need more information. So that's a good start. Yeah, it did spread, but what about where it spread? Now, the similarity would have to be a little bit more specific. The fact that it spreads, obviously religions are going to spread, but we need to find where the spread's similar. Are the spreads going to be in the same place? Did they spread the same way? Things like that are going to help specify that question, okay? Now, most of the time on an SAQ prompt, it's going to lead you towards that specificity. It's going to lead you towards being more specific. That's what I'm trying to say. This was a little bit more open-ended because that's one of your first ones, but you can make it a little bit more specific so that you can explain that better, okay? You probably couldn't use this as an actual similarity, though, if you made it specific, because Hinduism and Buddhism are going to spread in different regions, but they do spread similarly because they go with merchants, and you could talk about how they spread on the Silk Road. So you could probably go at it in that way. Okay, the next one is identify and explain one effect of religion on the people of society in which it is found. Now, this person said one effect of Buddhism on the people is that they have to give up all earthly pleasures, meaning to give up food, money, and sometimes sleep. One effect of Hinduism on the people is karma, meaning they believe in the universal law of cause and effect. Would that get the point? I'm going to read it for you again. One effect of Buddhism on the people is that they have to give up all earthly pleasures, meaning to give up food, money, and sometimes sleep. One effect of Hinduism on the people is karma, meaning they believe in the universal law of cause and effect. You think that would get the point to the prompt, identify and explain one effect of religion on the people of society in which it's found. What do you think? So far, I've got a no. Let's see if I get some more here. It's like the chat is coming in kind of slow. I join on my cell phone and see if it gets a little faster. If it went more into detail but remained short, it would have a good point, okay? Remember, the prompt is only asking for one religion, okay, and one effect. Hold on, let me turn my volume off. So, do we need to talk about both Hinduism and Buddhism? No, you just need to talk about one and make it more descriptive. So if we're going to talk about Buddhism and the effect, you could talk about why they have to give up earthly pleasures. What's the purpose behind that? And if you're talking about karma, how does that affect them? They didn't talk about how that affected them, right? So being specific with that one would have definitely helped it. All right, let's look at your next prompt. Let's see. Yeah, let's look at the next prompt real quick. The next one that I'm going to do is the number 1. It's the river valleys. This one was the second top one that was answered, the second most answered, I guess I should say. And the first one this is asking is identify and explain one political or economic similarity between two of the early river valley civilizations. So you can go political or economic here. Okay, keep that in mind. Now I want to read you two different ones, and just so you can kind of hear the comparison, and then we will brainstorm some others. So it says one economic similarity between Egyptian and Mesopotamian civilizations is both their agricultures drew upon wheat and barley, and both valleys carried a long-distance trade. Let me read it again. One economic similarity between the Egyptian and Mesopotamian civilizations is that both agricultures drew upon wheat and barley, and both valleys carried on long-distance trade. Those are both true, but what do we got to do to get the point on that one? They say economic similarity. We got that. But economic is money, right? So do you have to tie that somehow with money in what you're talking about? Yes. And they kind of did that, right? They talked about agriculture and they talked about long distance trade, but they didn't talk about how that affects the economy. You have to make sure and tie it back and talk about how that like created an economy, or the fact that their economy is based on that. Okay. So, for example, if you're going to talk about the economy as their similarity, and you're basing it on agriculture, that is very true. They have agriculture, and so that's how they would feed their people, right? What are some words that we could throw in here, some content-specific vocab words that could tie agriculture to the economy? What do you think? This person also mentioned long-distance trade. Can you weave that in somehow? I need to have like the Jeopardy song playing while you guys are typing. Like, da 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 da. Anybody? Just like, nah, I don't know, man. Let's think about the Neolithic Revolution and the fact that they settled down and they started agriculture. What happens because now they have some more technology and they can farm a little faster? It starts with an S. Anybody? It's one of our vocab words. I haven't done a TikTok about it yet, but I suppose I should. Anybody? Crickets? What about the word surplus? Agricultural surplus, right? So they have an agricultural surplus, and now they that frees up people to kind of like work in the communities a little bit more. So you could maybe talk about that. But we have to tie it to the economy. So the fact that they mentioned wheat and barley is really good, but you could say something about how like because they are farming and they have an agricultural surplus, it helps their economy and it spurs on long distance trade, something like that. Could you maybe talk about why they have agriculture as an economy, or why their economy is based on that? Where is Egypt and Mesopotamia? Where are they located close to? Anybody still with me? They are what kind of civilizations? Hello? Am I muted again? What kind of civilizations are Egypt and Mesopotamia? Anybody? 2 words. Yeah, there you go. Paris. Yes. River valley civilizations. So because they're river valleys, they have the water source, right? They have flooding that enables them to have rich soil. That all has to do with agriculture. You could throw that in there as some vocab and some descriptions. So they're river valley civilizations, which leads them to have good agricultural economy basis. They're growing wheat and barley, and this helps them carry on long distance trade. All right. So basically, that one was just a lack of information and explanation to get the point. Now listen to this one. It says, one economic similarity between Egypt and Chinese civilization was that they both had an economy mainly based on agriculture. Both settlements were able to harvest a variety of crops like rice, wheat, barley, due to complex irrigation systems they used for crops. Irrigation systems like canals allowed citizens to regulate and control the water from the rivers towards the farmland. This resulted in both settlements heavily depending on their irrigation systems for harvesting food and agriculture. Now, the only thing that that might not get the point on that is explaining how like the agriculture is linked to the economy, like through trade and through working with other civilizations. But that one's pretty good because it talks about irrigation, it talks about their location, and it explains it. Okay. All right. The next one is one social similarity between the river valleys. So one social similarity between two of the river valleys. This person said the social similarity between Indus and Chinese River Valley is that both civilizations were polytheistic, meaning their religions worshipped multiple gods. Okay, that's good. But once again, there's no explanation of how or why that's important. Why would it be important that they had this similarity? Explain the similarity. Like give an example maybe of one of their gods. And if you can't think of the name of one of their gods, then maybe don't choose that one. Or talk a little bit about like how they worship their gods. What are some of their cultural ways of incorporating the gods into their society? Here's a little bit better example of that one. The social similarity between Mesopotamia and Chinese civilization is that women don't have as many rights compared to men in their societies. Due to both settlements having a patriarchal social system, men were considered the head of the household and had more power compared to women, like having fathers forcing their daughters to arrange marriage and control of the families. Due to both Mesopotamia and the Chinese civilizations having a patriarchal society, this resulted in many women not having many rights compared to men. Okay, so this one's good because this was a similarity, right? So they're talking about patriarchy, patriarchal society. This is how you spell it. Maybe I can spell it right. There we go. Patriarchal society. This is one of your vocab words. That's male-led society. Okay, matriarchal would be women, but this time we mostly have patriarchal. Actually, all are patriarchal that I can think of right now. All right, and so they're talking about Mesopotamia and China having this in common, and that the women don't have a lot of rights. Their example is that they're put into arranged marriage and controlled by their families. Now they could beef that up a little bit by saying that the governments are controlled by the men. But I mean, for the most part, I think that would get the point because it's talking about the civilization and how it affects it socially. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right, let's go on to the third one. One difference between, let's see. Oh, yeah, it's a difference between the river valleys. Okay, so here's an example. One difference between the Egyptian and Indus River Valley civilizations is that the Indus River Valley did not have a political hierarchy or centralized state. This is proved by the absence of palaces, temples, elaborate graves, kings, and warrior classes that one would find while researching its Middle Eastern counterpart. Now, this one is really good, but I'm not sure it would get the point for one reason. And it's because they didn't really talk too much about Egypt and the Egyptian side of things. They say that the Indus River Valley is lacking the palaces, temples, and graves, and kings and warriors and all that as the Middle Eastern counterpart. But you need to come right out and say, hey, in Egypt, they have pyramids and they have blah, 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 which proves that they had a political hierarchy. Okay, so just making a reference to it The reader on the AP exam cannot read into it that they know what you're talking about. This is not one of my old students. This is one of my students this year, Lewis. Yeah, these are students this year. So I chose that example because it was really well written, but it doesn't take it full circle and talk about the other side. So he could say that would have been found while researching its Middle Eastern counterpart, period, and then start talking a little bit about Egypt. You know, like in Egypt, there are pyramids that prove the political hierarchy, something like that, okay? All right, and then for the third one about classical civilizations, this is the one I'm going to focus on a little bit because there weren't very many people that chose this one, and I'm thinking maybe it was because you did less research on it or you had less information. So I want to make sure that you have some information about this one. So the first one is one cultural similarity between two of the classical civilizations. The classical civilizations that we talked about, the classical civilizations that we talked about were Persia and Greece and Rome. Am I missing? Okay. So what is one cultural similarity that we have that we can compare between any of those three? Okay. So I'm going to have you guys, this is the one that you're going to kind of brainstorm and rewrite together. All right. So cultural similarity, what could we talk about that's kind of similar between any of those three? Think about it for a second. I'm going to take a drink of water while I'm waiting on y'all. We need a cultural similarity. Let's say between Greece and Rome, because Greece and Rome were the two that we talked about the most. Anybody got one? Anybody? Da, 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 da. This makes me feel a little better because nobody's really that talkative on Teams, so it makes me feel better that you're not talkative on here either. Maybe it's just going to take a while for you guys to get out of your shell. What do we got? Animal sacrifice. Okay, that's a good one, but I don't really know enough about that to write about it. If you know enough about it, then you can write us a SAQ, put it in the comments there. I'm thinking a little bit more broad so that we can kind of hone in on it and be a little bit more specific. What about religions? Do they have similar religions, Greece and Rome? Ah, Oscar put it down. I didn't see your comment, Oscar. Yeah, so similar gods and their religions. So for our topic sentence, you could say one similarity between Greece and Rome is their religion, which was polytheistic. And actually, we learned about in our notes the other day that the Greeks kind of borrowed from the Romans. So this will be a good one. Now, what can we say about the how part? How can we explain this? We could probably explain polytheistic, right? That'd be a good idea, just in case, because the reader cannot assume that you know what this is, right? So you could say polytheistic means they had several gods. And because Greece borrowed from Rome, the gods were very similar. So, Mel, I don't really think they had religious tolerance too much. I mean, it kind of depends on when you were talking and where you're talking. Because remember, Rome was a republic and then it was an empire. And Greece, we have city-states, All right, so that one would be a little bit tricky. You'd have to like really specify where. But if we're talking about like the polytheistic religion when they were kind of more into mythology, that one would be really easy to compare because, as Oscar said, you could provide examples of similar gods such as Jupiter and Zeus and Neptune and Poseidon. Very good. So that would be really good. And Koala says mono means one god. Yes, that's true. Monotheistic would be one God. Hey, St. Mark, how's it going? It's good to have an old student in here. Welcome back. How's your year going? Let me know. So definitely those would be some great examples. So that's what I would do with my next sentence. I would talk about Zeus and Jupiter. And I would talk about, you know, how they have similar powers. Okay. Maybe throw in Neptune and Poseidon. Then I want to address the why. Why is this important? Why is this something that has substance to it? That's where you could put in that Greece borrowed from Roman culture, and they had similar gods for that reason. So you can say this similarity is a result of Greece borrowing from Roman culture. Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling too, St. Mark. My summer was pretty good. It went really quick, and I didn't really go anywhere. I didn't really do much, but it was pretty good. I'm ready for life to get back to normal, that's for sure. I miss like the interaction of being in school, but we're going back on the 12th. So, well, the teachers are, and then the students come back on the 19th, hopefully. So how many of you guys are planning on coming back? What do you think? What are your parents saying? What are you thinking? Be interested to know. All right. So the next one that we're going to discuss, where's my prompts? So sorry. Okay. The next one, where is it? I do not see it on here. Oh, here it is. Identify and explain one political difference between two of the classical civilizations. So political would be government. So brainstorming, we talked about Rome and Greece more. And we said, what was Greece's political system like? Wallace says, I probably will because I can learn at home. Oh, so you're going to stay at home, you're saying? Yeah. It's not quite the same, but it is definitely safer, I think. All right, so city-states, yes. So Greece had city-states. It was more of a, we had Athens and we had Sparta. And remember, they were separated because of geography. Whereas in Rome, it was more centralized and more representative, as Mel is telling us, okay? So we could use that as a difference. Now, like I said before, Rome was a republic and an empire, and they're a little bit different at those time frames. And most likely, if this question were on the AP test, it would specify which one it's asking you. But for our reference today, we'll do that Rome during the unified government and Greece during the city-states, okay? So your topic sentence would be something like, one political difference between the classical civilizations is that Greece was run through city-state, or Greece was run through city-states, and Rome was more of a unified government. So Greece, city-states versus Rome, and you could also put in representative, as Mel suggested. Representative. We could talk about the Senate. Up here, you could talk about Athens and Sparta and how those two were different. If you wanted to get in depth a little bit more. And then for your why, make sure and explain how geography affects Greeks. So because it's so mountainous and it's hard to travel, they kind of grow up differently, or they not really grow up, but they are established differently. All right, and then our very last one is identify and explain one difference between two of the classical civilizations. So the difference, that's pretty easy, right? You just have to find something that they don't have in common. What about women's rights? We talked about that a little bit in class. What's going on with women's rights? Let's compare Rome and Greece. You know anything specific about that? Brooke says Roman women had more rights. Yes. Do you remember specifically what they were? Or some examples? Oscar says Roman women have more rights than Greek women. For instance, they can own property and initiate divorce. Good. Melly says property rights. Yes, good. So our topic sentence, I'm going to let you guys write this. What would our topic sentence be? Here's your prompt. Identify and explain one difference between two of the classical civilizations for your summer assignment. So what is your topic sentence? First person that pops up in the comments gets an extra credit point if you're in my class. And if you're not in my class, I'll try to get you an extra credit point. Topic sentence for this one. I'm going to read the prompt again. Identify and explain one difference between two of the classical civilizations. Anybody? Anybody? Who's it going to be? Just I'm looking for the topic sentence. You know, I write the whole thing. Oscar popped up first. It says, one difference between Roman and Greek civilizations is that Roman women possess more rights than Greek women. There you go, guys. There's your topic sentence. And mayonnaise was close behind with just about the same. All right, so we have that as our topic sentence. The explain part could be what you guys were talking about up here, where Mel says that they have the right to own property and initiate divorce. So you could say that in Rome, women had the right to own property and initiate divorce. Whereas in Greece, women could not do that. You got your comparison word, that whereas word. Whereas in Greece, women could not do that. And then you could say something, you know, like women in Greece didn't have very many rights. And how would we explain our why? What would you say about why this is the case? Why did women have limited rights in the first place? What kind of societies were these? We talked about it earlier. It starts with a P. Who's going to get it? Come on, girls, beat Oscar. You can do it. Okay, so yeah, there we go. I don't know why it's not popping up on my screen. Mel says because of patriarchal society. Yes, so both societies were very patriarchal. Rome was just a little bit more, and Rome did have protection of individual rights, but not really so much for women. It was more about men at the time. So I would go with the patriarchy first and say that both of these societies were patriarchal societies. Greece was a little bit stronger in that belief, or something like that. So good job. Now they're popping up. I don't know why it's taking so long to pop up. My internet's been kind of crazy. Maybe because I've been using it so much. All right, so does anybody have any specific questions? Do you understand a little bit more now? SAQs, super important that you know the information. That's the biggest problem, because if you don't know the information, you can't really write one. So that brings me to my next point. Next week, we're going to start your reading questions. And the reading questions will really give you a lot of in-depth information. Next Wednesday at 7 p.m., I'll be hopping on here again to look at the reading with you to help you kind of work through that a little bit. It does take a little while when we do it together, because I try to help you pick out what's really important and give you strategies so that it won't take so long when you're doing it on your own. All right. So we may not get very many done, I don't know, but we'll do our best and see what we can accomplish. It will also help your vocab. It will help your reading speed. And trust me, y'all are going to college and you got to read a ton of books in college. And you're probably going to be working a couple jobs and all these classes, so you want to be able to read quickly. This will give you practice in that. All right, so we're going to be starting that next week. All that information that you'll be getting from the reading will help with your SAQs, your LAQs when we start doing it, and even with the DBQs, because that information is going to be the basis of all of your essays. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? I know you all are at home like, oh, Missy. So I had my kids do Renaissance memes one year, and there was a meme, and it, like the face expression was like looking like this, and it said, when Miss Z says an assignment will be fun. And I was like, really? When I say it's going to be fun, it's always fun, right? All right, so let me know real quick if you have any questions, and if not, I'm going to let you go, and thank you so much for tuning in. I will, I don't see you guys tomorrow, do I? I will put a spot on the hub where you can turn these notes in for your retake. And if I don't get it done tomorrow, then I'll do it on Monday. Not a super big deal, but basically, just what I was looking for was your participation tonight, and hopefully things are cleared up a little bit. Are you guys feeling a little bit better about maybe what you did wrong? If you have any personal questions about your specific essay, we can talk about it during office hours. But I think I covered most of it. For the most part, the biggest mistake was just not being specific enough with information. But that will get better. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And I'm bummed that I don't get to see you tomorrow. I'm really bummed about that. But have an awesome weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Yeah, kind of, but I'm hopeful. Okay, Brooke, you know, that's all we can be. And it's just your first time. So if you have any specific questions about your essay, just let me know, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, I guess that's it, guys. So thanks so much, and I will see you on Monday.